Folks, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop. This Monday, June 9th, great to have all of our members back inside our live trading room. Got Farzad, Uday, got Margaret joining us here. Who else? Actually, my chat, I had to clear something out there. Great to see all of us now. Great to see Bill, Russell, Kathleen, as I'd mentioned, Margaret, Farzad, Uday, got Phil, Grant, Clarence, Kevin, Barbara, Laureen, Kerry, Fred, all of us just inside our live trading room. Anastasia and Jeff, great to see you both as well. Let's hop right into it, folks. And actually, just for me to mention, if you're on Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the works, even TikTok. We don't dance on TikTok, but we're here to educate at Cyber Trading You, popping up on the lower left right there. But let me just do something here pretty quick. Fix me up there for a moment. There we go. Good to go here. All right, cool. Let's hop right into it. There's a lot to discuss. The market made a pretty good move up, at least earlier on. We'll check in on a few of the larger cap stocks. NVIDIA made a nice pop earlier. Where is it at now? Tesla as well. Palantir too. What's on the screen, at least here, the Archer, ACHR. I'm in this trade currently. This is the only stock I'm in like right now as an equity. I'm back testing a couple things with my options here right now, but otherwise the same strategy actually played perfectly into this Archer. So I'd love to go over Archer. We also need to talk about GameStop. They have their earnings coming out later on this week. So I think even tomorrow afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, as soon as. So we'll get into that. Also, if you're a member inside our live trading room, hey, we always offer to members here like Bob, Anastasia, Jeff, and especially new trial members joining us here in our room. Great to see Clarence, as I just mentioned a moment ago. You got Devi joining us here, Jonathan L, you got Joyce, Russell, Sonia, you got Tim. A lot of people just testing our room out for the week. Well, hey, each and every Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern, I come on here to go through the X's and O's, not just show like, oh, buy at the bottom here or sell at the top. That's not realistic. But for real analysis, why a stock made the move that it made. As a trial member, this is the best outlet here as you're testing a room out to know why we're doing what we're doing. So if you have any follow-up questions for myself here, whether it be in this workshop or after, shoot me a quick email. I just posted my email address public inside our live trading room, and you'll be good to go with me otherwise, just whether it be in this workshop or as you're with us as a new member. But let's get into this at least here. Why am I in it? It's at the high of the day. That's great. But where is it going towards? Where's our levels? What's doing with this stock? So Archer Innovation. This is Fausto's pet project here. Archer is his puppy. This is his thing that he does really well on, and he's done very well on it back from the end of last year when like the whole New Jersey drone situation started popping up. You have all of these like unidentifiable like flying objects in the air, UFOs basically. They're led to be drones. Still no real conclusion on that, but it ended up leading to a nice spark in a lot of the drone stocks. You could say the drone stocks, the autonomous driving stocks, kind of put together. Now I'll give you the real declaration of what this company does, the real name of like the aircraft type thing that they make. But this company, alongside Joby Aviation, alongside, you could say, some other smaller cap ones, even Ondas Holdings here, Red Cat Holdings, all of them have been great day trades of late. Well, recently, as of even this weekend, I know that President Trump just signed off on an executive order for what's called the eVTOL aircrafts. It's the electric vehicle takeoff and lift. I think what Sam described, takeoff and lift, takeoff or lift, eVTOL. Basically, they're not necessarily just drones, but there's a whole subspecies to these drone vehicles, at least. And Archer is one of the main companies behind them. So they had some major executive order that was signed off on them from President Trump over the weekend. And it led to a good squeeze up even in the after hours here from Friday. So big pop right away. But even further heading into this morning, right? All right, quick question here. When a stock is moving up for Margaret, Farzad, Bill, Jeff, Anastasia, all of us just here in our room, I want you to answer for me. When a stock is simply moving up, who is winning that battle? Doesn't matter about the news, doesn't matter about President Trump, doesn't matter about any executive order. When a stock is moving up, who's winning that battle right then and there? The buyers, right? Absolutely. So when a stock is breaking over a big resistance, you'd say that the buyers are winning that battle, correct? Right? All right. Well, the big question here is, where is our resistance? Where do we have resistance here? And yeah, we can go back to Archer from just before. It looks like there was a big resistance it recently broke above just here. This big 160,000 share sell order that popped up at 1144, 1145 the price. Yeah, we could look at that. But guys, this news came out over the weekend. It came out on Friday in the after hours, mind you. So, we could even go back as far as Friday, but let's even use this to our advantage. Let's use this to our advantage here. Give me a quick moment and I will use this to our advantage. Um, what price sticks out looking at the far right side column here? CVP. What price has the largest spike of volume? That's the first question. What price has the largest spike of volume? What do we got? Good afternoon to a few of us just joining us on the YouTubes here today. Again, at Cyber Trading You. If you're on social media, just hop over to YouTube. Make sure to follow and subscribe to our channel there. You got Dave, I believe, right here on YouTube, as well as Kevin, our new neighbor here, so to say, from Lakeland, Florida, Southwest Florida myself. Yeah, 1120. 1120 is the big one right here, right? No debate. This is the largest, right? Now you could say, hey, there was a couple of big orders that got broken through here on the way up. So it looks like this order at 1120 early this morning in pre-market here for about 29, 30,000 shares got broken over, as well as this one here too at 1125, mind you. But that's where just a moment ago, if you're following us inside our live trading room, it pays to be a member, obviously for the watch lists and for the audio broadcasts that we do in the morning, the afternoon, but it just pays to just follow the chat board here, right? So I wrote just before, looking to see if Archer can make a move, make a move back up, and I was saying that if it could flip 1120 from resistance to support, from R to S, then we have a move. So why I'm showing this to you is, well, hey, look at where it's at now. So why did I say what I said? Well, it's because we had resistance here, at least from pre-market hours at 1120. And if we're looking for this to make a better run, it's got to at least play nice and flip that resistance into a support, right? So what we cover in phase one, even, let alone phase two, and then the advanced class. But that's where just a moment ago, it was kind of teasing the area again. It was holding under it at first as resistance, rightfully so. And then the more times it keeps poking it, in a smaller compression, smaller concentration of time, you're more likely to get that run. So, you know what? It broke over 1120 well, and not much time to even see it try and flip it into support yet. Now, of course, I mentioned that there was a resistance here at 1145, 1144 here, I guess it is, about 158,000 or so, 160,000. Now, this order did get pulled. This order here ended up getting removed from the book before it got broken through. So there's no legitimate buying pressure there as much. The buying pressure is off 1150. 1149, 1150 here. So now the question is, can this be strong enough to push up to the next resistance? Real quick, answer is not on this screen here. I want our students to answer this for me at least. And you got like Dawn here, Uday, you got Lee, you got Miller joining us, great to see, and Rick, and you got Tim, you got Tom M. A lot of our gold students that are at least with us in phase one. Answer is not on this screen. Just want you to know that. But where could you assume the next resistance to be here on this book map? Not on this screen here is the answer, but where could you assume the next big dark orange or red line to be at on the screen going up there? Wow, so many of us are so quick to answer. The whole number at 12. Dawn, Sam, Farzad, Lee, Phil, Uday. Check this out, actually, really quick. If you're joining us on social media, I like to show this from time to time. These are all of our students just that are answering us right now live. Dawn, Sam, Farzad, Lee, Phil, Uday, Tom, Laureen, Joyce. Correct. That's where I'd assume for there to be a resistance, and they are correct. They are correct right there at 12 bucks, 177,000. Looks like that seller is getting larger. So the selling pressure is trying to pick up a little bit, at least on the order book. But as long as this can continue to play nice, even to say flip 1150 into support, if it were to break below it here, I would just assume 1120 would be my next level. Just to see the retest of 1125, 1120 is support. I'm in this trade from a little lower than that, but you know what? This might be a good time to just even take half my trade out and then keep half in. It's holding over pre-market resistance too, though. So there's not like a strategical need to get out here on this trade yet. If you're in from 1120 or even lower from, I was playing around, I'm back testing a couple of things with like indicators. Probably come out with a video on that soon enough. I just got to pull more statistics on it, more data on it as far as like win loss ratio and whatnot. But I like what I got. Now it's just to say though that hey, there's not really a strategical need to get out on this trade just yet. It's not breaking a lower low here. It's holding this as support, which was resistance as well in pre-market. So maybe I'll move my stop up a little bit. It's on a full size position, so it makes sense to at least take half out at some point. But just give me a brief moment here. Probably even slice down towards 1138. There's a smaller little dip point where it just made previously. So if it shakes down, I'll give it like a small amount of leeway here, but go down to here. But otherwise, though, hey, it's been a great trade so far, right? The Archer trade. Now, how about the others? We'll check out Joby, Joby. Well, hey, this one's been more of a sleeper here so far. It's been kind of lackluster so far, and now just recently it's starting to make a little bit of a run. I feel like the Archer has been a stronger move, not just like looking at the 1 minute chart, but looking at the daily chart here. This has been a stronger trade historically, built a stronger push back up going into May, into this month. Whereas the Joby trade, it dropped off a lot more first, deeper into this consolidation it built from the year prior. It took a while to come back up here. So I feel like it's going to take longer for this to build out a little bit here before it continues. I just feel like the Archer is a little bit stronger of a historical graph. That's where I have a little bit more confidence in trading this one. But if you were to compare Archer to Joby today, we'll go through the same motion here on Joby. Like, why did this not make as good of a move until now? Now, we also have a couple other runners that we caught from just before. I know a few of our students inside our live trading room made some good money. It was what I was on, the KLTO stock. We'll get to that one just next. I don't know what news that's coming off of it all, but just to say that one's been a high flyer today too. All right, where do we have our resistance here on this page? Where's our dark orange line on this heat map right now? And if you're on social media, Kevin or Dave or anyone just joining us on YouTube right now, answer for me this here too. Where do you have the dark orange line going across the page here, acting as resistance? Acting as resistance. What do we got? Acting as resistance. What do we got? Laureen, Anastasia, Sam, Margaret, Dawn, Fred, Farzad, Tom, Lee, all was saying here $9, right? $9 is where you got your big iceberg orange line going across the page here, acting as resistance. It's about 30,000 shares. Don't get me wrong, this might be big too. This might be like somewhat relevant at 920, but nine's your larger level to work off of right now. So it's just to say at the market open, okay, broke over it here right away in the first minute. That's a good start. Now, though, it needs to at least flip that into support. If you're thinking that this will do it right away in the morning, then this is a shot. Like, hey, it kind of dips under and over. This could be your thought to just look for a slingshot and have it run right back on up, blast new highs. There is a real thought behind that there. But hey, if it's going to be right place, right time, and if this is such a big level, then we should see that reaction. Let's see that move, kind of flick this thing right back up, up to 950. If it's not going to do it here, then this is where we say like, hey, set your stop pretty tight. This is why they make seatbelts in cars. This would be ideal for an entry because it's even after the first 5 minutes. So, hey, if everything was so easy to do in hindsight or based off hindsight, you and I would not have a need to be here, not only inside our live trading room, but on YouTube on like a Monday afternoon. Both of us, you and myself, would not have a need to be doing this on a Monday after. You know what I mean? If trading was always that easy. This is where I tell you, based on strategy, this would be an appropriate entry. Every trade begins with the entry. So this is an A+ entry. Now, you better manage it well, though, because if this is such a big level, let's get that big move shortly after. Once it rejects and kind of pulls back pretty quickly within the first 30 seconds, first 55 seconds here, just move on. Or just get stopped out and just watch the stock and see what happens. It tanks right away, though, after. So if it's not going to stay there and just try and fight, then that's where I say it's best to wipe your hands clean. Now, over time, you could say I just kind of chopped around. Really, maybe if you're hunting for like a low here, I I don't know if there's any entry there. 850 is your next support, doesn't drop that low. So it's just to say at least that the next few times that it comes up towards resistance at 9, well, look what happens. Rightfully so. Once it broke below this as support and puked, rightfully so, that should be a resistance after. So it did hold afterwards as such. The time spent from this test to this test is what? About an hour and a half? That's a lot of time in between level tests. So I'm not as jumpy to take the trade right away, but the more it could keep pressing up against it, that's your trigger. That's what you're looking for to try and take that buy. So right place, wrong time at first. Support became resistance after, rightfully so. But the more times it keeps poking it, then we're bound to get that better reaction. That's all. So let's go back to Archer at least. Even this might take me out here coming up. It's kind of holding over this little dip point. Jobby seemingly now is like the stronger trade, looking at the last few minutes. But even for Jobby, where's our next resistance right now on this one, guys? For Phil, Joyce, Uday, you got Wendy here, you got Steve, you got Sonia, Mike. Where's our next resistance on this trade here, looking at this page? What do we got? 950, right? 50-cent level. Then after that, 10. After that, maybe even 1050. And, the further you get away, the lighter the order book gets. So 950 seemingly is our next resistance. And if I'm not mistaken, just because I have absolutely no life outside of CTU, I just remember the shit. I'm just telling you, I'm pretty certain that Jobby has a historical level right around here. Yep. Told you I don't have any life in. I just know this shit. So, that's another reason to rely on us here inside our live trading room. No, I'm kidding. It's just to say, though, that, yeah, right around 930-ish, really it is. And even if I go back, wasn't it even, I thought it was even, yeah, it was $9 at first. It was, no, it was 850. Haha. It was 850 at first. I knew that there was a historical level back a long while ago. So at first it built great support right around this 860-ish rounded bottom. You'd hope to try and see that retain again over time, but it's been very bad over there, very, very choppy. But you could say that recently, though, going back to the end of last year into this year, more so than anything, like 930-ish, 925-ish, just that area, a number of wicks on the weekly chart here, at least, that are holding well high. This one opened up and it tanked right away. This is another high here, another one here. So I would not be surprised that if it fails to flip this into support coming up, then we're more likely to get that rejection. Now, to spread a little hope and positivity to this, well, if this trend sustains and this keeps kind of holding and pushing up a little bit, if this does flip this into support today, right now, then there could be an even larger intraday move ahead for the afternoon session on this Jobby. So there is a tale of both sides there. Just make sure that you have your levels identified first, right? You have a good historical area here. So if this wants to keep pushing up and hit 950, if this wants to keep pushing up and hit 10, then at the minimum, you got to at least see this act as support coming up here. And if this fails to hold as support coming up here, then my assumption, this is my mental 2+2, but I would be assuming that Archer would look to try and fail and kind of pull back as well. So, they're two separate companies. They trade similarly. One's doing a little bit better than the other, but as far as like at least the sector goes, the whole reason that these stocks are moving today and from Friday afternoon is at least there's news behind it. Trump made some executive order signing off on, I guess, further advancement and funding with these EV TOLs, takeoff and lift vehicles. So I'll even pull up the news here just as we wrap up on this on these stocks. But let's see. Here we go. All right. There we go. Electric air taxi. See, that's what we've been nicknaming these stocks exactly. I wanted to get the fancy schmancy name there out there for you. They're called EVTOL, Electric Vehicle Takeoff and Lift Pilot Program. It's a tongue twister. So shares of electric air taxi companies are trading higher after the White House announced that President Trump signed an executive order to advance electric air taxis and enable expanded drone operations. There is a lot to talk about with President Trump and the news that's come out recently over the weekend. So we can even spin this now into a discussion about Tesla and Elon and not only like the electric vehicles, but Elon himself and the other companies that he operates with SpaceX, right? Because that trickles into publicly traded companies that revolve around space contracts. So there's a lot to talk about here. Whether you like or hate Trump, whether you're left or right, up or down the middle, you got to react to the news, right? This is where I tell you, like, to get to know a little bit about myself. I hate making this about myself, but just so you know where I stand on all of this stuff. I always say in our trading room, let's not talk about politics because I just want to keep it all positive here inside our trading room. Everyone's got their own opinion. You want to know what my opinion is? Really? Seriously about me? I hate politics. I've always grown to hate politics. I've been so, just anti politics growing up. So I'm not either side of the coin. Now, the more I grew up, the more I had to become, interested in the political landscape. And I am now, certainly. So I do have my own thoughts, but I am more moderate. I still am pretty down the middle. That's where I tell you, I have no opinion about Elon. I don't have like, oh, I'm like pro Elon. Oh, I'm anti Elon. Cool. Like Elon's doing good things with SpaceX, good things with Tesla. I'm all for the advancement of technology outside of AI becoming like the Terminator. If we go to like Skynet and we're doing like T2000, yeah, I'm not really signing up for that. But outside of that, at least I'm all for the advancement of technology. What I'm talking about here is that with Elon and Tesla, man, he really shouldn't have opened up his mouth, right? Needless to be said, looking at this chart, he shouldn't have opened up his mouth. Listen, the whole reason he left Doge was so he could focus on his companies, focus on Tesla, focus on SpaceX, focus on XAI. Oh man, I wish Twitter was public on days like today. Last week, today, that would have been a great time to have Twitter publicly traded. Would have made for a great day trade. Now, this made for a great day trade too, because this was a great short. You're able to short this. You're able to short the ETF. You're able to buy puts if you're familiar with options. But point being is that Elon should not have opened up his mouth because obviously Tesla tanked. But it's just to say that now he's beefing with Trump, and Trump's looking into the other contracts that he has with his other companies, including SpaceX. So it's not just Tesla that's suffering, but it's also other companies that are really making a nice pop off of the potential of them acquiring Elon's space contracts. So think about Rocket Lab, RKLB made a pretty good pop, at least from Thursday afternoon going into the close, then grinded up Friday. All right, that's good. Good for a swing trade at least. And then gapped up way higher this morning, right? So that was a great opportunity as a day trade. Look at this AST Space Mobile stock. We killed it on this stock last year, back from July into August time. Another stock that Fausto crushed as a swing trade. It's actually going back up to those highs right now. But even today, just off the news that came out, well, they were good. They benefited pretty well off of it, right? So that's how you're able to kind of twist news into our style of trading, at least. How could these become not only good, day trading opportunities, but also good swing trading opportunities as well? It's not just buying it because the stock is coming off the news. I mean, hey, if that was the case, then I would have bought Archer instantly at the market open, right? And I would have like a smile on my face as it tanks, right? But that's not how trading works, right? So that's where you got to know where your levels are, at least initially. So even going to Rocket Lab, RKLB, coming off the news with Elon and Trump, they're beefing, and there might be some positive news with Rocket Lab benefiting from that. Okay, well, again, if I just bought right away here at the market open, then this thing's tanking at first, right? So it's not just buying the stock because of news, but you got to know where your real levels are. Now, on this trade, I'll tell you right away, and this is where you'll answer it for me. There isn't really a resistance level that's getting broken over here. There is not really. It moved up over the overnight hours from Friday into this morning early, but it's been like kind of pulling back. Where do we have resistance in pre-market for this trade? Where do we have resistance in pre-market for this trade? Because I don't care about political opinion, who says what, what they're saying on CNN, Fox, NBC, whatever. I care about this. I don't care about Elon and Trump beefing. I care about where my levels are. So where's my resistance here, at least on this screen? Sam, Laureen, Michael, pretty much all saying the same thing, right? 3150, 3150. That's right. And then 31, what is that? 31.30. Kind of tough. You got to squint your eyes for that one there. Yeah, 31.30, 31.50. So until we see those get clearly broken over, I'm not fully convinced that this is going to make a great run here at first. Now, there could be support that builds over time. Just for reference, like 29.88, I guess that iceberg's at 28,000 share buyer. Hey, maybe that could be a great level afterwards at some point here, but it looks like it just shoots up right above the price and goes up like very effortlessly. I probably would have wanted to have seen a little support build here. You got the VWAP price at least right there too. Yeah, $30 there as well. But this is a pretty quick move. Let's just say worst case scenario, you miss it when it kind of breaks back above the VWAP. It kind of breaks back above this, support from earlier. Then that's where I just say at least that 31.30, 31.50 area is your next larger area to work off of for today. So at least beforehand, it tried to break above it. You may have missed out on part of the trade at first. Um, Again, hey, that's part of trading. You got to accept if you turn over to a stock at some point, it's already moving up without you. You have to wait until either it flips that previous level into a support, or you have to wait until the next level gets broken over. So it was right around what, 31.30 and 31.50, right? So you had to wait a little bit, but it still made a nice break above it. It tried to hold over it pretty nicely here heading into like mid-morning, 10:15, 10:30. And then from there, that's when things started to weaken at least a bit. Now at this point, this trade's not looking as great. It's holding over the VWAP perhaps still, but making lower highs. So I need to see a little bit more out of this before I'm convinced it's going to make another like intraday bounce into the afternoon. It's a great swing trade, though. Rocket Lab is a really good swing trade. Let me just show you the long-term chart here. Noticed it earlier here just before. This might be all-time highs, right? Yeah, this is approaching all-time highs, which was just from January. You could say kind of this area, loosely speaking, it's not perfect, but a number of these highs at least were holding well as resistance. A bit of a rounded top formation, right? Bit of a rounded top here at the time. So this might take a number of days for this to develop where it builds resistance up, 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 then it breaks out later on. Or maybe it just continues popping right away, but that's right, rather on the long-term side of things, wait to see this resistance area flip into a support. So it's a great day trade today, or at least it was earlier this morning. Heading into the afternoon, we'll see if there's any more to it. Looks like the ASTS trade's holding up a little bit better. So we'll go into this one here next. Got a lot of emails that came in as well, email/private chat messages as well. So we'll get to those as well just before we finish this workshop. Again, we also have to talk about GameStop. We also want to talk about one of the other trades from earlier this morning. I think it was the KLTO, I think, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Well, this one didn't have much resistance to work with at first. Even these orange lines that show up, they're not big size. They're not like large size under the orders here, COB column. So I'm just pointing out here, there's not much to work with. When the market opens up, there is a lot to work with. This pops right away, right? So this just pops very fast, insta, move up here. That's where the order book fills in. 34.50, 35. Those are real, orders that I'll respect. 24,000. Obviously here up top, 52,000. That's pretty big to work with resistance wise. Even here, this got pulled, but maybe that could still be a level at some point. Where I bring that to your attention is because of this. We had a resistance here, even here at 33, and it quickly got broken over. It got broken over right here as it continued to move up higher. So who's winning this battle again, folks? Who's winning this battle right here one more time? If you're on social media, you got Dave here, Kevin, you got Uday in our chat board right now, Anastasia, Margaret, Thomas. Yeah, the buyers, right? So when a stock is going to break above resistance and there's enough buyers buying pressure to squeeze that seller out, and not only to squeeze that seller out, but to have the stock run up pretty nicely at first here, it was a good 70-cent pop off the level. That's a decent move off that resistance. What are we looking for that resistance to become? Right away, folks. What do we got? Margaret, Laureen, Sam, Tom, Karen. It's the same game plan the whole time. So it takes maybe a few minutes longer, about 5 or so minutes for it to build. But the more it's failing to drop and it keeps fighting, 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 that's the difference between this and some of the other trades that we had from earlier. If this ends up fighting at least over time here and it's not just puking, as we said earlier, one of the stocks we reviewed earlier, and puking, well, hey, for this one, if it's not puking and it's fighting, there's a chance for this to try and do better and flip this not only into support, but for it to re-break the level and make the better run. So 33 was a great level to start with because we had volume that came in here. We had real buying pressure at first, not just like 7,000 shares or 5,000 shares. So at least once that kicked in, we saw a much better move. Now, at this point, at least, why is this becoming a better trade for the afternoon session? Well, this thing broke above a huge iceberg order, not even at 35 bucks, but a 36, even larger order. I would have expected the larger seller to be at 35 because figure at a $5 or $10, level, 35, 40, etc., etc. Well, hey, it goes to show that's why you got to follow Bookmap and follow the order book so well here because this became a larger point of interest. So at least over time, it became resistance. But this kept fighting, it kept building higher lows. It kept, sideways it is. So it's not just so easy to say, oh, it's like, oh, just doing well. Yeah, there's a point where there's a chance this can make a lower low and this could fail. I feel like this is like on a tightrope here, kind of like balancing here, pretty risky. But it gets the job done. It does not make a lower low. It continues with higher lows. And then from there, hey, very easily actually does it break this resistance. Moves up nicely at first off of it. So that's where I'm getting the thought. Okay, it broke resistance. It actually did hold it here, but it ran higher. Like this is a real run. So I'm thinking once it breaks resistance and runs after, that's where I'm even thinking, all right, resistance can flip. So far, as long as this is containing itself over 36, I'm led to believe there's a chance for more this afternoon. Current time right now is 12:38 p.m. We got what, 2.5 hours left? No, 3.5 hours left until the end of our day. What's to say this can't try and make a move up to 40? Right? As long as this continues to play nice, at least if this stays over 36, then I'm led to believe there is a shot for this to, try and break higher heading into the close. Look at the daily chart. This is as good as Rocket Lab, if not maybe even better. Kind of do a comparison from apples to oranges here. ASTS, Rocket Lab. They're very similar. They're very, not to say identical, but they're pretty damn similar. They're near the all-time highs. If anything, this looks pretty good where it hit resistance a couple of points here. 36.87 high from October. Then on this candle, 34.87. Okay, it's actually 2 points off. That looks pretty close. Goes to show how big of a move this stock made. These two wicks here actually look pretty close, but they're not really. They're 2 whole points off. So I'm not going to exactly use that there. It looked like it might have been a level there. If I flip it back to a daily chart, what do I got? Is there something tighter I could use? That's the same shit. What's that? 36.87, 36. Okay, 36.54 is the high on this one daily candle. Then you got the 36.87. This one as well, 36.70. So kind of that area, like it's a loose area between 36, rectangle here, 36.50-ish and 36.70-ish, kind of that area together. There could be a bit of a historical area there that could be blocking it, but I'll trust my volume as long as there's enough buying pressure to sustain $36 to flip into support. Then I'm bound to believe this will at least try and make a move up here, if not break above it and try and continue. So it's all about knowing your levels ahead of time, at least. That's where I said earlier inside our live trading room, today's a Monday. I'm just back testing a couple things. I'm still kind of working out a couple kinks in this strategy I'm building with like indicators for my options. Is really working out well. I'm not going to say anything public yet. I've been showing it to a few of my students in the coaching program. So they know at least. But that's where even those trades, it just requires patience, and then it requires knowing where your levels are. So even for my like indicator thing I'm playing with, if I get like a signal for a buy, doesn't mean that it's bound to like instantly pop. What happens if there's a big iceberg that was resistance earlier that should still be treated as resistance now? I need to know where my levels are at the end of the day. So I think, what was it, maybe like one trade just before? I mean, it was on the Palantir. This one had a tough time trying to break above 28 at first, but eventually got the squeeze and got the job done. So once it ended up breaking above 28, as long as this stock is showing higher lows, and more importantly, eventually flipping 128 into support, then I'm bound to believe it can make a better run. So, something like that, you just need to keep on top of when it comes to bookmap. All right. So, where do we want to steer this boat towards next? Let's go through some emails and some private chat messages, at least here. So, just quick one here from Uday. He was asking this just earlier. Can you help me identify support resistance for the stock ELAB, for the day? And I'm going with his question to start because it segues perfectly. He's specifically asking, do you use the high of the candle or the close of the candle to dictate resistance? Right? I'm pretty sure that that's what you were asking today. So basically, where I was kind of drawing up support resistance on the AST trade, that's from the highs. So just to answer that, at least, I'm more focused on the highs than I am the close when I'm looking at the 1 minute or the 5 minute chart. Like for reference, when it hit this one peak here on this one candle, that doesn't indicate that this price is going to be big resistance. But when it's clearly proving itself as such, candle after candle, and like there's a consistent series of candles consolidating, if not literally under this price or at it, then just mere pennies under it, like give or take like five, you could tell the more it's pinning up against that horizontal price, it's proving itself to be such, right? That's where just before for this chart resistance to be out there, and it broke over and it ran, well, guess what became support afterwards, right? Just here, right? So that answers Uday's quick question just in general. That goes for any trade, but let's go through ELAB. Let's go through the ELAB trade. All right. All right. So this thing not doing too hot. Has not been doing too hot since the morning. Quick question. Outside of the first few candles, from 8:30 on my chart, from 8:30, looking at my screen, going into the right side of my chart, from 8:30 going right. What's the direction of that trade? From 8:30 to the right side of my chart. Sam says flat. Mike says flat. Uday says consolidate. Sam says slightly down. Yeah, I mean, either or fits, right? I don't think any of us here are screaming up, right? Point being, I don't think any of us in the chat, right? No one's writing up. So that's just to tell you who's winning this battle right now. Who's winning this? The buyers or the sellers here? Can you tell me? Who's winning this battle from 8:30 going into the market open? Depends if you answer flat or depends if you answer down. Because if you answer down, you're probably going to say sellers. If you answer flat, you're probably going to say no one, right? I'd agree on either or. I mean, you could say the sellers are starting to win the battle. It's all right. Either way, the buyers are not winning the battle, right? So we need to see the buying come in. That's the first question for ELAB. Now, if we're looking at Bookmap, that's going to give us perhaps where we have icebergs, but let's just even use $3 here as a level. Whole number, which you should always focus on for support resistance. I was loosely holding above it as support here. It broke below it as support here. It tanked from support after. So I would expect support to initially be resistance. It hasn't been tested yet. This hasn't even been tested yet after it broke below it as support. So when the market opens, I'd be expecting 3 to hold as resistance at first, then to see it prove itself to me. If this wants to run, it will prove itself. Point being, right? I say this out loud to every one of us. This goes public, PSA. PSA to any, if you're on YouTube, even more to you because you're not taking our classes. You're not going through the better education that we really provide, phase 1, 2, and 3. But that's just where here we can't just jump into a trade to jump into a trade, right? So the process behind taking this trade goes as such. What's the trend of the stock before the market opened up? Like, yeah, it popped at 8 in the morning, but what's the trend? The hour, the 30 minutes before the market opens. None of us wrote up. Okay, well, then who's winning this battle then? Clearly not the buyers at the minimum, right? So let this stock prove itself to us. I don't care if a stock pops without me because if it was just on random, unexpected, like very unanticipated right out the gate, then hey, from that point, if it proves itself to us, then we'll try and focus on that as a move. So we were looking at this in pre-market. It was on our morning watch list. So for those reasons, we are focused on it here heading into the open, right? Good. Perfect. Now, though, the game plan will still be just like we got to wait to see the stock prove itself to us. So at least this isn't just some random stock popping out of the blue. It's on our list. We got the time to prep up our levels. So $3 is easily going to be at least the iceberg resistance I'm expecting. And you could even say 310. 310, there seems to be, some consistency with seeing resistance build. So I would look at that as a key level to work off of here too. I mean, the combination of them need to flip into support over time. Now, though, again, there isn't anything here. This is flat or slightly down. So after the open, this is all after 9:30 anyway as well. It goes up to resistance. It gets up to 310, but fails to, I mean, probably even if did it kiss it? Did it kiss 310 and that's it? Oh, no, not even. It like kind of hit 309. I didn't even kiss it, let alone break above it. But still, there's no thought of jumping in because it's not breaking over the level, let alone even testing it here, actually. It kind of just hovered 1 penny under it, then puked. So, that just goes to show hey, even three was a prospective level. That's a level I'm looking at in pre market. But if it's not breaking over where the iceberg order here was at 310, then there's no trade to take. So at least from there, easy to say. But I guess it did like break over it, but still as such to say the first test is the best test. If it were to hit this and then keep holding and fighting, and if it's stuck here for a while, then there's the prospect of trying to take it on the next break over it. But first test is typically best test either way, and it pukes. So once it makes the sharper rejection, that's where you got to wipe your hands clean. Look to move on to another stock. Sometimes it is as simple as to say it's as easy as that because once it does reject and drop as quick as it does here, it's simply not worth watching and expending energy watching this move after. There's other stocks that are doing a lot better, at least at that point. Um, Again, Archer you could look at, right? You could look at the QBTS trade at least from earlier. We caught a good bounce on this even here too. What was it, the KLTO stock from just before? This one ran for us here as well. So, yeah, this thing kind of sprouted up, underneath our radar a little bit because we don't focus on the stocks below $1. If they pop up on our radar, it's because they're breaking out over $1 or they're up so much percentage wise that it, comes up from there. But even when it's kind of pushing up here in pre-market, we weren't as focused on this trade. We're focused on others because we're not trading a 62-cent stock. No disrespect to anyone that trades these stocks. It's just for us to say we have our own criteria. We mainly focus on stocks at least over one. The more we focus on stocks that are below $1, then what about Nvidia? What about Palantir? What about this and that? So we definitely want to make more room for the larger cap stocks as well. Just point being is that for KLTO, another great example of how hey it could pop up on our radar out of nowhere, and we could still take a good amount of the trade off the table. So it moved up to $1 right here, much later into the market open at 10 o'clock at least here. So it broke above it, rejected. First time it comes to it, it should do that. But again, the more it keeps fighting, this didn't puke after. Like it dropped a little bit, but it didn't completely reject. This is where the more it keeps fighting. All right, there's a realistic shot here, guys. So the buying pressure only continued. It made a hell of a run off of one. I'm sure it got halted a number of times in the process here, going up and down. I can see here, got halted on the way down. But at least now at this point, it's up so much percentage wise. It's probably some like stupidly low float stock. No disrespect to this trade, but just saying that. Let's see here. Oh God, I gotta probably. Let's see how low of a float this stock will give me here from TradeStation. Taking a quick look. And that means that this stock right now could very well be very deflated because it's already up so much, trading 887 million shares total on the day. It's got a 22 million share float. So it's even to say that we've traded stocks lower float. Some stocks have like a freaking 500,000 share float that are incredibly dangerous. But that's where on this one, trading nearly a billion shares total on the day, when it has a 22.5 million share float, I'm getting that from Benzinga. That's a bad concoction, just so you know. So if it pushes up later, it's basically I'll believe it when I see it type deal. I'd rather wait to see like this peak flip into support or something like that. It's already made such a nice run. There's definitely some takeable money off of $1 at least here, but it's up so much percentage wise, trading so much volume. There's some battles that you just don't want to pick or fight at this point, and that's okay to not pick this fight going forward. All right, there's easier money to take off the table. All right, so let's get to where's my email? Got to reload my inbox here, Kerry. Let's get to an email question. Then I want to go to GameStop because GameStop has earnings tomorrow. Just had a question come in for that. We'll discuss the long-term chart for that one at least. We'll finish up hopefully by 1 o'clock or a minute after. So let's see. What do we got here from Kerry? Traders Talk question for today. What are your thoughts on AI in your trading portfolios and years to come? Do you know of anyone out there in Wall Street land or fellow traders or friends already using AI to day or swing trade? I'm sure you're like me, getting a ton of ads, emails, and seeing social media sales tactics saying their AI is being great for their performance. Tell me about it. Now, Carrie is not even relating that to like trading performance. She means that like just in general, right? Like just like, oh, this new AI is revolutionary for your business, 10x your business with this, and then like it will go into like, if you're health conscious, there's probably some health AI, ad that pops up like, oh, lower your cholesterol by using this AI program, blah, 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 blah. Carrie, I'm sure that's what you're referring to, right? It's not just within trading, but just life, getting all these freaking ads, right? She says, yes. Okay. She says, I don't fall for the bait, but it's coming, I'm sure. Heck, I'm just learning the right way. Need to be perfect first, right? And she linked like an article going into it. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? And unless if you're living under a rock, right, Carrie is definitely in the know with a lot of the hot topics that are being talked about online on Twitter. Her and I kind of, went over a couple little news sources in the past, going through people. So it's just to say that unless if you're living under a freaking rock, you should know that AI is already here. It's been here for a little while at this point. So it's only going to get to become more advanced, even easier to use, more public to just the common folk, common man, common woman. Now, how does that translate into our trading portfolios for years to come? Well, the last part is the most important part for years to come, right? So if this is something that you believe in and you already have belief in, then hopefully you should already be looking at these as long-term trades, not just day trades, right? Great swing trades, great long-term moves. Now, when it comes to AI, there's going to be smaller cap companies that might come out with some AI, right? This is like basically when you have a lot of like, let's say for Hims and Hers company, the men's and women's vitality, longevity, based company for life and all that. Well, the second they started showing good results and good sales, don't you think that there are larger companies, Amazon, Walmart, blah, 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 that are starting to offer more flexibility with what they could offer to their shoppers and do it commercially through online? And so that's where, for even a small cap company that comes out with some really good AI that could revolutionize a sector or a field, a business, a company, there's a good chance they can get swallowed up and just get bought out by Google, get bought out by Amazon, get bought out by Microsoft, get bought out by Palantir, right? Um, you can't really, in my opinion, all right, in my opinion, it's a lot more difficult to judge when when a company gets bought out, if they do get bought out, even, right? I'm sure that you could look up online for some criteria for like potential buyout candidates, right? And if it's tied into AI, follow that company a little bit more. But listen, if you just buy a stock because you think it might get bought out by like a larger AI, well, you might see it eventually get bought out, but it might be like years down the line, and it might be after a 60% drop off from where you jump in. So you can't time it, right? So don't play that game. That's kind of what I'm hinting towards there. Don't try and play that specific game. I'd rather play the game of either day trading those companies while you can. If they're in the news for a given day, a given week, then like we always do with like the EVTOL, companies like Archer, uh, day trade them first. Then, if they start to prove themselves to you, at least as a swing trade, looking at the daily chart, then I'd put a focus on a swing. Um, just using KLTO here for reference. I don't think it's AI related. Maybe it is, and I could be wrong. But point being is that this is not a good swing trade candidate. I mean, I can't imagine someone trying to prove me wrong here, because when you look at this chart, this has only been going down. So this chart has not proven anything to us as far as being a good swing trade yet. That's where, for a smaller cap AI based company, if you like what they do, let the chart prove itself to you first as a swing trade. It could still be a good day trade at least. Now, when you're thinking big picture and the larger companies already in the AI field, well, OpenAI is a private company, right? They're a private company, they're not public. So if they do decide to go public, that will be really cool to trade. Much like with Bitcoin, there's some good IPOs of late out there. The Circle trade we did really well on back from Friday last week, broke over $100, moved up about 20 points. There could be something like that where OpenAI becomes publicly traded and it becomes a really cool, IPO to day trade. But otherwise, I would just more so focus on Google. Google is a huge leader at this point when it comes to their Chat GPT. That I think is their Gemini. It's one of the higher rated ones, if not the highest rated as of now. Now, that's as far as I know today, June 9th, the year 2025. Literally tomorrow, there could be something that changes the landscape of the AI field. It's like every day there's something new popping up. That doesn't always trickle into the stock market and different publicly traded companies. But it's just to say that I don't have my ears close to the floor here of the market than I used to when it comes to AI. Just that for right now, Google, I know, is one of the leaders. So they could be a great swing trade to focus on going forward for years to come, as Carrie had phrased it. Now, if we're just planning a long term trade, a swing trade, doesn't matter the news or whatnot, then it all revolves around the same process. Where are my levels? What's the trend? Is the chart proving itself to us? This has been proving itself to us, especially after the market had bounced back in more like the end of April here, April 22nd, we talked about in class. So Google made a higher low there, bounced back up. At that point, that's where you could try and look for resumption on this long term trend. But now the question is, where do we have levels? So if you're looking to get into a trade here soon here, I'm just using this for reference, giving like a shoot example here for right now. Notice that it topped off pretty much at 200 bucks, a little bit above it, but loosely speaking, had a tough time confirming over 200 and came back down. That's going to be a resistance again here. Otherwise, though, if you're looking for resistance to flip into support here coming up, I like what I see here as resistance. It tried to flip into support on these like candles afterwards, but then failed. If you're looking for a better long-term move on Google at this point going forward, it might be to your advantage to wait for this to get flipped into support. Then you might find a better, a cleaner move to take. We always like to think, oh, the lower entry is the better. Well, jumping in right now, this still seems a little range bound. Maybe there's a couple of days this week where it could pull back down a bit first before it comes up more. So there might even be a point where you can catch this a little bit lower. But if not, then hey, wait to see this better level try and flip into support next. Resistance here. It tried to, at least back in mid-February, but hey, once it starts to show better signs of that happening, then I'll feel better about, if not 200, then much more. But that's where we could talk about like fib levels. We can go into like Fibonacci extension lines and do projections and this and that. I can go like crazy into like indicator stuff that I normally don't do with day trading, but something like this you can kind of poke at and look for extension levels. But obviously something that's larger cap like Google is more so than anything just going to go with the market. So as long as the market here is continuing to push back up to all-time highs, I feel pretty good about Google where it stands. So that's the best answer I can kind of give you there, Kerry. If you have follow-ups on it, let me know at least. If there's something more you were looking for me to go into, please let me know. I'll just write you back on the side at least there. All right, so I think that just about wraps it up. Damn, I wanted to. One from Kathleen. One from Kathleen here, quick. I'm sorry. What exactly does Fausto mean when he says 3 days for a swing? So you're gonna have to ask him for more clarification there, Kath. 3 days for swing. That's how she's phrasing it to me, and I think I've heard him say something similar. My best guess there would be one of two things. Either he's trying to hold on to a swing trade for 3 days, or he's waiting 3 days of consolidation to see that support build before he looks for a swing trade. I think the latter is the answer there. I think that's what I'm looking for. I think that's what he meant. All right. All right, real quick. I got to jump onto a coaching call. So, really quick for my student here that's going to be joining me in just a moment. I appreciate your patience. I think that's Anastasia. So, I want to get to that in just like 2 minutes. Let me take just 2 minutes to go over GameStop. Then we're going to wrap up here, folks. So, GameStop has earnings coming out after the close tomorrow. That'll be June 10th here coming up, I believe. So, a lot of people are looking at the chart wondering, is this the moment that it makes that big short squeeze? They had that big investment in Bitcoin recently. Ryan Cohen was at the Bitcoin conference just a month ago or a few weeks ago. Roaring Kitty might make a new tweet, set this off again. This is where I'll come back to the last video I put up here on YouTube for you, where we were discussing the prospect of this into the end of last year. I talked about this to begin myself at the end of last year, thinking that, there's a chance based on a couple of signals I was getting for this to try and make a similar run that it made back from late May, early June, maybe try and make a similar type of short squeeze. It started off okay for us around 28.50, 29, but it didn't make higher highs after a point and then came back down pretty hard. So I ended up going break even on the equity. I took a big loss on my option calls at the time, and then I kind of moved on from the trade. Now, after that, it's funny enough because there's two things that happened here. We come back to this trade pretty much going into mid-May of this year, basically a year removed from the last major short squeeze. Well, this is where actually some news came out with GameStop announcing some major investment. I think it's like over $500 million into Bitcoin. So we were focused on it for a bit as a swing trade. Fausto was. He got some advice from, I think it was his nephew at the time, who was big into it, and it worked out well as a day trade. And a couple of days it could have been a good swing. But what happened? It came crumbling back down, right? So this did not hold. This did not flip resistance into support as well as you'd want it to. Well, when that happens, you better not be stuck, hoping and holding. You got to run and either take a small loss or take a loss or just get out break even if you can. But let's just say for reference, I like this because it topped off once here, twice here, then it rejected later on. Well, simply put, why can't it flip this into support at least when it pulls back? If it can't even do that and go up, then there's no thought of this continuing just yet. So we moved on at that point. We did well on it as a day trade, a couple of days here and there, but it spiked back down. The reason I bring this to your attention is because if you're on YouTube right now, go on Twitter and, just check for yourself. But I'll just tell you, from the time I was, looking at GameStop to the time Fausto was in GameStop, the same knuckleheads, the same people that were chirping about GameStop back in December that I saw were still talking about it here. And they were like talking about it with every tweet that they were typing. So you do not want to get stuck watching a stock. not make that move you're looking for it to make. Don't get stuck in the hype. Don't get stuck in the sauce out there. Oh, it might have the chance to make this run again. Maybe it does. Let it prove itself to you, right? Just like I said to you before with some of the other, like AI stuff, I guess we said with, but just if you're looking for a long term trade, let the chart prove itself to you. Well, after it rejected from where I was looking at it, certainly there was no proving of anything for a long while. And then even here, when there was a better chance, even at this point, for it to get the job done, it still failed to do so. So what happens going into their earnings? Well, there's something I want to show you here at least, because this is a big part with what I focus on as far as a swing trade. I'll put a big focal point on like the operating cash flow. So if I look at like GameStop, go into their financials, operating cash flow here. What's interesting is they've gotten a lot of free cash to work with over the recent 6 months at least, if not longer. They've been flipping into positive, if not much more, as of last quarter. Now, a good chunk of that, I'm sure, went towards Bitcoin and their purchase into Bitcoin. So, there's no guarantee if this number is going to continue or not. But from wherever they bought, hey, Bitcoin's been going up at least, right? So, a very strong move back up on Bitcoin. Perhaps they're doing well there, but that's where, at least if they have a positive earnings reaction, then I'll be interested in trying it out one more time. But it's got to play nice. If it's not going to at least flip resistance into support where it could or should, I'm only going back a year, so we could even go back even further. You know what, I'll tell you, that actually is a pretty decent level, not half bad. A couple of longer wicks down here that built out, then it eventually broke below it. Now it has been holding under it pretty well here, so that's where I'm starting to like this area a lot. Now, hey, if there's a strong earnings reaction and GameStop makes a good pop, then we could see a move for like 10-20%. So what does that mean for a $29-$30 stock? That can mean a 3 to 6 point move up. So it's very realistic where even with a strong earnings reaction going into tomorrow afternoon, there could be plenty of time over time here to see support build from this historical area and then to get the higher high afterwards. So I like it, but one more time for the folks in the back out there, let the chart prove itself to you. It's exactly what happened with Celsius. That's why that was such a loser for so long, because there was nothing here that was being proven. And then finally, off their earnings that they had back in late February, that's where I was focused on it. And over time, it wasn't even right away, but over time, it proved itself, right? So let the same be said for GameStop coming up. Now, folks, we're going to jump off at least right here. If you're on social media, Kevin, Dave, Rhonda, great to see you as well, joining us on YouTube. If you're interested in joining us, you got a couple of routes here to join us on. Just subscribe right to our YouTube channel down below at Cyber Trading You on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. We don't dance for you, but we're here to educate for you. So go right down to the link on the bottom below there at Cyber Trading You. Hit the follow or subscribe button there. Long day on this stick. I got to hydrate with this at least, right? But otherwise, if you're looking to join us inside our live trading room, go right down to the link scrolling in blue on the banner below, ctu.co/trial, and then test our room out for a week. Just join a lot of our members right now, if not just students like Lynn and Randy, Lawrence, Leda, Jeffrey, Margaret, then even trial members joining us here. I see Joyce, Devi, you got Jonathan here, Devi actually saying, for those interested in AI, YouTuber Matt Wolf is a good source of news development in this space. And he links to YouTube. Oh, I appreciate that, Debbie. Thank you. So I appreciate, any of our students or members, let alone trial members, testing our room out, giving us extra insight there. I appreciate that, Debbie. Thank you. And then Russell and Tim and any of our trial members just testing our room out here. Hey, we hope that you enjoy the week here with us. We're here for you as well. Do not look to risk any money, at least with us just yet. If you have your own trades, then stick with them, but don't look to risk any of your hard-earned money until you go through our classes. This is a nice workshop we do every week, but our main curriculum, the phase 1, 2, and 3 course, that's what we teach live each and every month. So as a trial member, it's best to just even sit back, just be in the passenger seat, just see if this is something even doable, realistic, something that you like, most important. And then, hopefully down the line, we look forward to having you in our classes and for you to be a student, much like, Lawrence, John, Patrick, Michael, Phil, any of our students just trading with us here each and every morning. So, hey, folks, I'm going to jump onto a coaching call coming up with one of our students actually here. Appreciate their patience. Anastasia, quick shout out to her. But no, folks, we'll be back live at least here at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for our next broadcast, the afternoon meeting. We'll catch up with you then. Take care.